us for prom night 26. For more detail, call 910-865-5252 or online at ftccenter.org. Space is limited.
Welcome to Cape Fear Valley's Making Rounds Live, broadcasting and streaming live from the WIDU Community Room.
The WIDU Radio Network, WAGR in Lumberton, WYDU in Red Springs, and WEWO in Laurinburg.
Making Rounds Live on 99.7 FM, 1600 AM.
We air every second and fourth Tuesday of the month.
Making Rounds Live.
The purpose of this show is to bring you information on health and wellness.
Here's the host of Making Rounds Live, Omega Jones.
Thank you so much, Ray. Welcome to another edition of Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. I'm your host, Omega Jones. Today we're talking about something we probably don't think enough about, but what we're discussing today, we needed to go to for every avenue of our life. And today we're talking about our feet, because April is National Foot Health Awareness Month. And joining us today is Dr. Orja Hill, no pun intended, ladies and gentlemen. And Dr. Hill is a podiatry resident at Cape Fear Valley Health, and she's here to help us understand how to make things better or how to take better care of those lower extremities and why it matters. Now, one thing, remember, this broadcast is for informational purposes only. This is not a time for you to self-diagnose. So if you may suffer from anything that we discussed today, what I want you to do is find yourself a healthcare professional. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me and join me in welcoming Dr. Hill to the broadcast. Dr. Hill, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
Thank you for having me here.
First off, for our listeners, tell us who you are and what you do for Cape Fear Valley Health.
Absolutely. I'm Orja Hill, and I'm a podiatry resident at Cape Fear Valley Health. And what that means is that I specialize in treating conditions of the foot and ankle, everything from everyday pain like heel pain, sports injuries, diabetic foot care, ingrown toenails, and complex injuries and problems such as fractures, deformities, and diabetic wounds.
What made you choose podiatry?
So I was always interested in medicine, and when I was in undergrad, I went and shadowed many specialties, and what drew me towards podiatry was the hands-on and how impactful it was. So once we start treating these, we see immediate improvement, and it's very powerful to restore mobility.
Now, was there ever a moment or an experience that led you into this direction?
Yeah, so when I was initially in Cleveland doing my undergrad, and I was actually shadowing a general surgeon and seeing a surgery on the abdomen, and the next door was a podiatrist who was doing surgery on Achilles. And when I went in there, I got to first observe the Achilles tendon repair, and then I shadowed him in their clinic, and I saw the wide variety of range that we get to be exposed to and treat, and to see people being able to walk again. And that's when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to spread awareness. And that's when I decided I wanted to get into podiatry.
For John and Sally Q. Public and the everyday listener and viewer watching and listening right now, in everyday terms, how would you describe what you do?
So in everyday terms, what we do is we get patients with pain for many years or months, right? And we help treat that, diagnose, and prevent complications. We also get a lot of diabetic patients where we start from just simple foot care to like just making sure they're doing okay, to complicated wounds where they got injured and they got infected and ended up getting more complex. But that's what we do on daily lives, and also deal with trauma like ankle fractures and like sports injuries or calcaneal fractures. So anything to do with foot and ankle, that's what our daily life looks like.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, April is National Foot Health Awareness Month, and joining us today is Dr. Orja Hill. If you have any questions for Dr. Hill, what you can do is give us a call here at the WIDU studio. Telephone number 910-483-6111. Again, 910-483-6111. Either you can come on the broadcast and ask the question yourself, or you can just leave the question with the person that answers the phone, and we will make sure we get that question answered. Also, if you're following the live stream on Facebook, you can leave the question in the comment section, and we will make sure that we ask Dr. Hill that question for you. Finally, what I want you to do is make sure you share the broadcast. A lot of information we're going to be covering today, and it's too much information for you to try to be that middle person. So share the broadcast, and that way you can just go here, just watch it and get the questions answered. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about feet today, and our in-studio guest, Dr. Orja Hill. Dr. Hill, what do you think foot health is something people tend to overlook?
So it's out of sight, out of mind kind of situation. People think that having pain in their foot is normal, especially people who stand for long periods of time. But actually, the foot pain is not normal. The longer we ignore, the more complicated it gets. And so I feel like because, the feet are so far away, like I said, out of sight, out of mind, people forget about it, and that's how, until something hurts, we overlook it.
Let's talk basics. Why is taking care of the feet so important for overall health? You pretty much hit on that in the last question, but for listeners who may be hard-headed like I am, why is taking care of your feet so important for your overall health?
So your feet are your foundation, right? We use them to get around and basically your daily life. It's so important to take care of your feet because the way you walk can affect your knees, your hip, and over time you can have back pain. So it's so important to make sure that our foundation is strong. Don't ignore early signs, symptoms, pain. If it lasts for more than a few days, a couple weeks, get it checked. And that's why foot health affects our entire body, and so it's important to not overlook that.
Dr. Hill, as far as what you see, what are some of the most common foot issues that you are seeing right now?
So, believe it or not, one of the most common foot issue is plantar fasciitis. I'm sure all of you have probably heard about this. Bunions, ingrown toenails, stress fractures, Achilles tendon issues, especially people who are very active and running. But these are all the common issues that we see in our daily practice.
All right, follow-up question. Which condition do you see the most, and what causes that?
The most that I see is plantar fasciitis, and it's usually caused by overuse, not wearing proper footwear, having tight calf muscles because we don't stretch and strengthen our lower bodies, like we overlook that, and standing for long periods of time, which puts strain on our ligaments and our arch on the bottom of our foot, and we carry so many times our body weight on our foot. So overuse can cause this.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the studio, Dr. Orja Hill. She is a podiatry resident at Cape Fear Valley Health, and she's our guest today on Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. Dr. Hill, let's talk about plantar fasciitis. I know I just butchered the word, but you've mentioned it a couple of times already. Exactly what is it, and what does something like that feel like?
Yes. So to give you in simple terms what plantar fasciitis feel like is it would be sharp pain in the heel. It would mostly feel most painful in the first step in the morning. Or if you sat down for a long period of time and then took the first step, it would also be very painful. But I would describe it as like a sharp pain, and often it goes away with movement, but it comes back right after you rest and take the first step. So that's when you know you have something that's going on, then it's plantar fasciitis.
Let's talk about bunions. People joke about them all the time, but what causes bunions?
So you have your family to blame for it. Bunions can be many times genetics, and
Wow.
it can be acquired with wearing tight and narrow shoes, especially in women who are told to wear pointy shoes, that look cute, but they are the culprit. They can cause bunions, and bunion is a progressive condition, so it can get worse over time if you don't prevent it. So bunion is basically when your great toe starts to face towards the other toes, and the joint is not aligned anymore, and with every step, it gets worse if it's not prevented or proper shoe wear is not taken into account, and that's a bunion. Yeah.
Wow. We'll talk about the shoes in just a bit
Yes.
because I love my shoes. But let's talk about stress fractures. To me, that sounds serious. Is this something that builds over time, Dr. Hill, or is this something that just happens suddenly?
No, so stress fracture is something over time. It's caused by repetitive movement in a certain area. So if I were to keep hitting one area over and over, it would break down at one point. And that's what a stress fracture is. That can happen mostly in the foot because of overuse. Again, we're always on our feet, getting around, especially in athletes, runners, and people who play sports. Also in people who increase their activity suddenly and did not stretch or did not prepare their body for it can also have stress fractures.
You were talking about Achilles issues earlier. Achilles issues, is that something that you see a lot with people who are active, or do you see that, does it just happen to just average people also?
So there's 2 points to this. So one, it does happen in active people, more common. However, people who are not commonly active and just have like a regular daily lifestyle, if they increase their activity suddenly without stretching, that's when we see it in more people who are not athletic. So yes, it is possible to have the Achilles injury in both active and non-active people.
So it sounds like, to avoid what I'm getting ready to talk about next, which is foot pain, we all need to stretch. It's basically what I'm hearing this morning.
Yes, as simple as it sounds, stretching before you get out of bed, stretching during the day, and stretching before going to bed is as simple as that, can make a big change.
Wow.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Orja Hill, I'm learning something today. She is a podiatry resident at Cape Fear Valley Health. She's our in-studio guest today on Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. Dr. Hill, foot pain. When is it something that you can manage at home? And when is it time to go to a professional?
So if it is mild and improves with rest, ice, compression, and gets better with just wearing proper shoes, you can definitely manage it at home. But if the pain lasts more than a week, it's getting worse, keep an eye on that. And if it affects how you walk and your daily activity, that's when you have to get it checked.
A lot of people push through the pain, Dr. Hill. I have to say I'm one of those people. Is that one of the worst things that we can do?
Yes, that is unfortunately one of the worst things we can do. Pushing through pain is not something you get rewarded for. It is your body's warning sign. Ignoring it is only going to turn a small issue into more complicated issues. It does not harm to get it checked.
Wow.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the studio, Dr. Orja Hill this morning. Dr. Hill, let's talk about shoes. I love my shoes. I love my Italian cut shoes. I love the pointy toe shoes. I love the pumps. I can't wear them anymore, but I love the pumps. So let's talk about the shoes. How much do our shoes impact our feet? Because you've got some cute ones on right now.
Yes, so shoes matter a lot. And if you can wear supportive shoes with good arch support and enough room in the front of your shoes to not have your toes cramped in there, that would be the best. If you're going for, say, I understand that wearing sneakers is not an ideal situation for many women, especially out there. So if you're going for longer walks, you know you're going to be standing for a long period of time, I would definitely recommend supportive shoes. If you can't absolutely avoid the pointy shoes, it's okay to have them on for maybe a few hours, but carry a pair of sneakers with you that you can switch into to allow your feet to be more comfortable and supported with stability. What
should people look for when choosing a good supportive shoe? because most people my age, we just go to the Skechers shoes and just get ours there. But what do you suggest as far as a good supportive shoe?
So you want a shoe, like I said, with a good arch support. You want to check its cushioning. You also want to check how stable it is. So if you try to bend the shoe in the middle, it should not be completely flexible. You want to only bend it at a certain so where your toe bends. You also want to make sure there's enough room for your feet, so you should not be sliding in them, neither should you feel cramped in them, and you don't want to think, oh, I'll break into them. You want a good fit for your shoe, or for your feet. Yes.
Is there a type of shoe we should avoid?
I would say flat shoes, heels, and any sneakers or any shoes that are worn out. So you want to check your shoes every few months and make sure. Your shoes can tell you a lot about your feet. So if you're wearing your shoes out only on one side of it, you're walking with more pressure on that side of your foot. So as your shoes are worn out, it's time to replace them. Flats will not have any support to your entire foot. So those are absolutely to avoid whenever you can. And heels, they put pressure forward pressure in your body, eventually can lead to knee pain and hip pain. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk about flip-flops. We've talked about sneakers. We've talked about high heels. Flip-flops, how do they impact our foot health?
So flip-flops also lack any support. So there's no stability to the sides or the back of your foot. And it also causes your arch to strain, which can then eventually lead to all the problems that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And so usually I avoid flip-flops. And sneakers are the way to go, stability and support.
Sneakers are the way to go. Now, what if the shoes still look okay, Dr. Hill? How often should we switch our shoes out?
So for an athlete, I would say if we're talking about in miles, we can say 300 to 500 miles. But for everyday, regular population, I would say check your shoes. Check if they're worn out. That's when you change them. Personally, I keep 2 pairs of shoes that I rotate between, and when I see they're wearing out around 6 months to 7 months, I know it's very soon. 6 months is not enough to expend so much.
I'm just breaking them in at that time.
Right, but you want to make sure they're not worn out, and as long as they're not worn out, you can use them, and then it's time to get a new one as soon as you see any wearing.
All right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, April is National Foot Health Awareness Month, and joining us today, Dr. Orja Hill. Dr. Hill, she is a podiatry resident at Cape Fear Valley Health, and she's our guest today on Making Rounds Live. Let's talk about everyday habits. Why does taking care of our feet, or what does taking care of our feet look like on a daily basis?
So simple things, washing your feet, in the morning, after coming home from work, making sure you wash your feet, drying your feet well, and moisturizing. And this is something people always get shocked when I tell them, my patient population, that do not put moisturizer in between your toes, because you will sit with your toes in your socks and the moisture can make them even more moist, and we want the in between your toes area to be dry. Also, trimming your nails correctly, paying attention to any changes, whether you have any conditions or not, making sure you check your feet every single day and catch any symptoms or sign early on.
So I can't put moisturizer in. The feet are dry. So
I always give this analogy. Imagine if you're sitting in a swimming pool for 3 hours, and when you come out, you see your fingers and your hands turn very soft.
Yeah.
That's where the skin in between our toes is very sensitive. So if you put moisturizer and you sweat and it stays moist at all times, you are putting yourself to cause maybe infections, even maceration, which is breakdown of the skin or becoming really soft in between toes.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, it's important to not put lotion in between your toes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's why we have Dr. Hill in the studio with us today. Dr. Hill, what are some things that we can do, start doing to make a difference today?
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, stretching. So stretch your calves. wear supportive shoes. You'll be tired of me saying this, but wearing supportive shoes is very important. And do not ignore early pain. All these things alone can prevent a lot of serious problems in the long term.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, April is National Foot Health Awareness Month. Joining us today, Dr. Orja Hill. And when we return, we will continue our conversation about foot health, and we're going to go into some warning signs that we should not ignore. Cape Fear Valley Health, making rounds live. Make sure you stay close.
We'll be right back with more of Making Rounds Live.
Cape Fear Valley's Making Rounds Live.
Broadcasting and streaming live from the WIDU Community Room on 99.7 FM, 1600 AM.
The WIDU Radio Network.
A second North Carolina lawmaker is leaving the Democratic Party. State Representative Naseed Majid has now announced he is changing his party registration to unaffiliated just days after State Representative Carla Cunningham did the same. Governor Josh Stein addressed the North Carolina Sheriff's Association during its spring conference at Wrightsville Beach on Monday. He discussed his commitment to the people who keep North Carolinians safe. New details are emerging about the suspect accused of opening fire at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He appeared in federal court where he was assigned public defenders and did not enter a plea. King Charles III is scheduled to address a joint meeting of Congress today. Drought conditions continue to raise concerns across North Carolina, with some communities already under water restrictions and others closely monitoring supplies. Mike Rayleigh, NCN News.
I'm Jamie Monticelli, WIDU Radio News. At about 2:45 in the morning on April 25th, Fayetteville Police Department officers went out on reports of a shooting along the 600 block of Berwick Drive that resulted in a death. The victim has been identified as 40-year-old Kenneth Gillis of Fayetteville. His next of kin has been notified. It is an active investigation. They will release additional information when it becomes available. If you know anything about the investigation, you are asked to contact Detective B. Ramirez at 910-309-6140. Time to go through your pantry, see what non-perishable food items you could donate to the less fortunate. The letter carrier Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive is coming up on Saturday, May 11th. They will collect non-perishable food items to benefit local food pantries. All you have to do is leave a donation of your non-perishable food in a bag near your mailbox on the second Saturday in May. Your letter carrier will do the rest. From WIDU Radio, I'm Jamie Monticelli.
As we end the month of April and start May, it looks like temperatures will average below normal, and we may be seeing above normal rain chances as well. Now today, mostly cloudy, a slight chance for a shower, the high in the upper 60s to low 70s, a little bit milder than what we had for the day yesterday. Mostly cloudy tonight, the low in the mid-50s. Tomorrow, keep the rain gear handy. We have rain in the morning, perhaps some storms in the afternoon, and a chance they could be strong, the high in the upper 60s to low 70s. I'm Mike Mays in the Weather Center.
You ever notice how most helpful information always seems to show up just a little too late? Like, oh, the deadline was yesterday. Or,
you know, you could have saved money if you'd done that earlier.
Timing matters. That's why Fayetteville PWC wants you to know the summertime of use schedule begins April 1st. With smart timing, you can lower your energy costs by running appliances like washers, dryers, and dishwashers outside of peak hours. And by adjusting your thermostat just a few degrees higher between 3 and 6 in the afternoon, you can save even more. It's a simple shift that helps reduce strain on the energy grid, supports a more sustainable future, and keeps power reliable for everyone in our community. Because at Fayetteville PWC, we're committed to being environmentally responsible, dependable, and deeply invested in the place we all call home. Timing matters, and smart timing means savings. Learn more at startsaving@faypwc.com.
Are you struggling with your Medicare drug costs? The NC Department of Insurance SHIP program may be able to help. The Extra Help and Medicare savings programs are available for those who qualify, but you have to apply. Contact SHIP today to see if you qualify. Visit ncshiip.com or call toll-free at 855-408-1212. SHIP provides free, unbiased help in all 100 counties.
Project supported by grants from the Administration for Community Living. Contents do not necessarily represent official views of, nor an endorsement by ACL, HHS, or the U.S. government.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we
We learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First, drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow, you sound just like him.
Then he said,
If it's still warm, then do it again.
Where can I learn all this?
It's all on SmokeyBear.com with other wildfire prevention tips. Because only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
We now return to Making Rounds Live.
Cape Fear Valley's Making Rounds Live.
Broadcasting and streaming live on the WIDU network, 99.7 FM, 1600 AM. Here's Omega Jones.
This is Pastor M.J. Wade, pastor of Perfected Saints Family Worship Center, Fayetteville, North Carolina, and you are listening to Wake Up.
This is Pastor Neil of the New Covenant Christian Faith Church Ministries, 5427 Murkison Road, and I am proud to be a member of Wake Up.
Your station for inspiration and information, 1600 AM, 99.7 FM, WIDU1600.com. We are WIDU Fayetteville. We do radio. Follow us on Facebook at WIDU 1600 AM.
This is Pastor M.J. Wade, pastor of Perfected Saints Family Worship Center, Fayetteville, North Carolina, and you are listening to Wake Up.
This is Pastor Neil of the New Covenant Christian Faith Church Ministries, 5427 Murkison Road, and I am proud to be a member of Wake Up.
We now return to Making Rounds Live.
Cape Fear Valley's Making Rounds Live.
Broadcasting and streaming live on the WIDU network, 99.7 FM, 1600 AM. Here's Omega Jones.
Thank you so much, Ray. Welcome back to the second segment of Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. Before we bring our guest back onto the microphone, I need to let you know that summertime is right around the corner. And have you ever joined a gym that you never visit because you don't feel comfortable? Well, you need to know that some gyms, yes, they can make you feel out of place, but Cape Fear Valley's HealthPlex is a fitness and wellness facility for every person and every body. And did I mention there's no contract? So what you need to do is learn more by going to HealthPlex Online. That's healthplexonline.com, or you can give them a call, 615-PLEX. That's 910-615-PLEX, and get yourself ready. Get your summer body ready for the summer. And ladies and gentlemen, April, in case you're just joining us, April is National Foot Health Awareness Month. And joining us today is Dr. Orja Hill. Dr. Orja Hill, she is a podiatry resident at Cape Fear Valley Health. And we're talking about feet health. We're talking about things that we should do, things that we shouldn't do. And one thing, Dr. Hill, we were mentioning people who stand on their feet a lot and all the time. And mainly we're talking about like nurses, retail workers, stylists, they stand on their feet a lot. What should they do differently?
Okay, so first, if they don't have a good pair of shoes, to invest in a good pair of shoes, supportive shoes. Also consider orthotics if they are having symptoms, if they are having pain. Orthotics go a long way. They mold to your foot in a way that you do need the support. And 2 or 3, we can wear compression socks. Compression socks go a long way as well. You're standing on for long periods of time. The gravity pulls all the fluid down. The compression socks help with the swelling and edema to the lower leg, and also stretching, like I have mentioned multiple times. All these things will make quality changes in life for people who do have to stand for long periods of time.
And what about people who work out and stay active? Same thing?
Same thing, especially warming up before their activity, stretching, wearing specific shoes to their activity to make sure that they don't get injuries, and to increase the intensity of their activity very gradually instead of sudden increase. And this is for anybody, like you were mentioning HealthPlex. So if you are starting gym new, like make sure you don't go all out the first day. You want to gradually increase and reach the goal. It is not one day get it all. It's a slow process.
So I can't achieve my summer body in one workout, really? Let's talk about diabetes, Dr. Hill. You mentioned that rather during the first segment of the broadcast. Why is foot care so important for people living with diabetes?
Yes. So diabetes actually affects, the first is your circulation and your nerve sensations to your feet. Because it's the farthest away from your body, the nerves in the feet do get damaged first. The circulation, your heart has to work harder to push blood down to your feet. And so people who don't have sensations, they don't know that they are injured. And when you ignore an injury, it can get infected. So even a small cut can lead to losing a toe or even more. And so it's so important for diabetic patients, even if they don't have anything going on, to make sure their feet are checked daily.
What are some warning signs that should never, ever, ever, ever be ignored?
Yes, this is my spill to every patient, every diabetic patient I see. If you have an open wound, do not ignore it. If you have a small cut that is not healing for a while, do not ignore it. If you have any swelling, numbness, if you start noticing an odor from your body that you'd never noticed before, any redness, pain out of proportion, these are the signs you should never ever ignore. Call a doctor, call the ED, go get it checked, because if you ignore it can only get worse.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Orja Hill, our in-studio guest today on Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live. Dr. Hill, how often should someone with diabetes get their feet checked?
They should get it checked regularly with their doctors, but at home, they should check it daily. I always say if you can't reach the bottom of your feet, get a mirror and put your feet against the mirror and look at your feet into the mirror and make sure there's no injuries, no open wounds that could potentially get infected. So daily is the right answer to that.
Let's talk about myths. What do you hear all the time that's not true?
So foot pain is normal. That is not a true myth. That's not true. I'll tell you a story about myself. So before I joined school for podiatry, I was in constant foot pain, and I thought this is what everybody feels. And when I came to school and learned about feet, I learned that the shoes that I really liked, they were in fact sneakers or tennis shoes, but they were 5 years old. And so those shoes, I just had to toss them out, get a new pair, and the change in my daily life was incredible. So foot pain is not normal. If you are in pain, you're doing something that your body is telling you is wrong, and we need to get it checked and fix it.
What is something that people are doing right now that is actually hurting their feet, Dr. Hill, but they don't even realize it?
Like I told you my story, the shoes that are worn out, you hold on to something that you like, the way it looks. So I feel like many people, if you don't have to take medications and only wearing a right shoe is going to change the problem and fix it to some extent, then yes, do it. So most people are wearing the wrong shoes if they're in pain. That's what I think majority of the population is doing.
Now, on the flip side, what is one simple thing that people can start doing today? You mentioned it during the first break, but I want you, during the first segment rather, but I want you to say it again for folks who are just joining us. What can they start doing today to take better care of their feet?
So stretching is very important. Whether you are an athlete or not, I stretch before I get out of the bed every morning. Stretch during the day and before going to bed. Wearing good shoes, wearing compression socks, whether you have to stand for long periods of time or not. Obviously, if you do have other medical conditions that prevent you from wearing compression socks, do talk to your primary care physician. But keeping your feet clean, making sure you keep them moisturized, and keep them in between your toes dry. So those are the things you can start today.
Now, you keep mentioning stretching. What particular stretches do we need to do every day?
Right. I would say calf raises, doing toe stands, doing hold on to a wall and stretch your calf, like basically strengthening your calf. And then your foot has many small intrinsic muscles. They're very tiny muscles. So just moving your toes and flexing the foot back and forth. You can also find a guide online that you can look for strengthening your foot and calf muscles.
Okay. Now, you mentioned this during the last segment, and I found it interesting when I was preparing for the broadcast. You said that foot problems can lead to other issues, like issues with the knees, the hip, or the back over time. Explain to our listeners and viewers how this is possible.
Absolutely. So the foot is part of your entire body. It's not isolated, right? So when we walk on, the foot passes the energy to the ankle to the knee, and the knee to the hip. And when we move, all of these joints are connected. So if your foot is not properly aligned and you don't have a good biomechanics, and we're not doing anything to stabilize that, it can create a chain reaction that can affect your entire body's posture. You can start having pain in your hips, your knees, and eventually back pain. And vice versa. If you have back pain, you could start having foot pain. So to have any sort of these pain, go see a doctor, get it checked, and see what can be done to help prevent further complications.
Dr. Hill, for someone who's listening right now and they're saying, okay, I hear what she's saying, I need to go to see a podiatrist, what can they expect when they go see you?
Definitely. So you'll have a thorough exam of your lower extremities. We'll discuss all the symptoms. We'll get imaging if needed. Also, we'll see how you're walking. We'll assess your gait and then come up with a treatment plan that works for both you and I in the long term. And that's how your first visit is going to look like.
Ladies and gentlemen, April is National Foot Health Awareness Month. Joining us today, Dr. Orja Hill. Dr. Hill, what about kids? Is foot health something parents need to worry about early on?
Definitely, yes. All ages, honestly. I have many parents that come in because they see their child walking differently one day, or their kids start to complain about pain. And sometimes we think, oh, they're just playing for a long period of time out there and they're going to be in pain. But if they consistently complain about the pain more than a week, yes, kids should be getting checked as well, and making sure, like observing their gait for parents. What kind of shoes are we buying them? I know kids grow fast and those shoes can be expensive, but we have to make sure they're wearing the right fit, not buying a large shoe that will fit them for 2 years. So
glad you said that. Let's talk about shoes and babies walking. The hard bottom shoes, do we still need to get those, or the sneakers and everything that parents are getting now? Does it make a difference?
Yes, it does make a difference. Every foot type is different. Some people have flat feet, and some people have high arch feet, and some people have rectus feet. So getting the shoe that fits to your foot, and if you're not having symptoms with a certain type of shoe and it is comfortable, you don't need to experiment or change the type to see what fits better. Wearing supportive shoes with the arch support that supports your feet is important, even for kids and all ages.
All right. Yes. On a personal note, Dr. Hill, what has your experience been like as a resident at Cape Fear Valley Health?
Honestly, it's been an incredible experience. We see a wide range of cases. I've made so many patient-doctor relationships because we have our own clinic, so we see our own patients with the attending present, and I have so much opportunity to grow both clinically and surgically. And it's been we have a great team here. If you do need us, come see us.
All right, and before we wrap up, is there one thing that you want to stress to our listeners and viewers? I have a feeling I know what it is. What would it be?
So don't ignore foot pain. And taking care of your foot does not have to be complicated. It's very simple. Small, consistent habits can make a big difference and prevent any further big complications.
And you didn't mention stretching.
And stretching.
And finally, Dr. Hill, if someone is dealing with foot pain or something just doesn't feel right after they've listened to this broadcast today, what should their next step be?
So if they're having foot pain, try resting, icing, and compression, and also see what activities have they changed recently. What are they doing different? Is this pain, monitor the pattern of the pain. And if it still lasts for more than a week, I would say get it checked before it gets worse.
And one final question that's nowhere on this sheet. You are a resident for Cape Fear Valley. I have enjoyed the conversation that we've had today. Have you found yourself a home in the area? So that would tell us whether or not you're going to hang around with us or not.
Yes, go ahead.
That was just a question I'm just throwing out there at the last end.
Honestly, I do feel like me and my husband both feel like this is home. We do want to stay around. And yeah, if things work out after residency, I'll be in North Carolina around here, and we'll see how that goes.
Awesome. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Orja Hill, she is a podiatry resident at Cape Fear Valley Health. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. And she has shared some very interesting information with us today, ladies and gentlemen, about the importance of taking care of our feet and foot health in general. And like I was mentioned earlier, they carry us everywhere we want to go. So let's aim to do a better job. And Dr. Hill, thank you so much for being with us today. The conversation has been amazing. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me here. It was good to have, talk about what I know out here.
All right. And you have an open invitation. If you want to talk about something, come back anytime.
Thank you so much.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, mark the date. Our next broadcast is Tuesday, May 12th. And for our producers, Lindsey Graham and Ray Thomas, and the hardworking team behind the scenes, I'm Omega Jones. Thank you so much for listening and watching Cape Fear Valley Health's Making Rounds Live.
Your station for inspiration and information. 1600 AM, 99.7 FM, WIDU1600.com. We are WIDU Fayetteville. We do radio. Follow us on Facebook at WIDU1600 AM.
NCN News. I'm Mike Riley. Breaking news. The United Arab Emirates wants out of OPEC. The Gulf nation says it will be leaving the oil cartel on Friday. CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Incencioso has more.
It could make oil prices cheaper.